Mr. Bass, thank you. Our next question comes from Bob Denz on the issue of Social Security, directed to Mr. Bass.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, candidates, for being with us today. For years, Congress has debated how to preserve and protect Social Security. Raising the Social Security tax cap beyond $106,800 is one idea to extend the life of the Social Security fund. Is this a viable option? Another option is to raise the benefit age, but this poses challenges for those with careers in manual labor. What do you think about these ideas, and what are you willing to consider supporting in order to address Social Security solvency?
Mr. Bass?
First of all, we already voted to raise the retirement age, and until that is fully in effect, I don't think that issue should necessarily be a priority. I think that Social Security is different from any other government program except possibly for Medicare, in that everybody in this room makes a contribution to this program every single week or every single day that they receive a paycheck. It shouldn't be about Republicans and Democrats or Annie and me debating what the future of Social Security was with our own ideas. We have our own ideas. It needs to be America's solution. And when we had the big debate over personal accounts 5 years ago, I held town meetings all over the district, which unfortunately the Democrats didn't do with the health care proposal that was brought up last year. And I said at the beginning that the solution needs to be bipartisan. And I believe that we should have a national commission consisting of elected officials, but also experts outside of the political spectrum, that will bring to the Congress a plan to protect and preserve Social Security, and that everything should be on the table. We should go through an election cycle, and then Congress should be forced to vote on that plan.
Mr. Bass, thank you. Ms. Custer, 1 minute.
Thank you for the question. I appreciate it, and particularly in this audience for AARP and for seniors that I've met all over this district, this is a significant issue. Let me start with this. I am opposed to the privatization of Social Security, which is a strong plank of Congressman Bass and his party. And I have met people all across this district on this diner tour that I'm doing right now, and in house parties and in neighborhoods, who are living through this recession solely on their Social Security check. Women in their 70s who have gone back to work waitressing because they can't afford to get through another day. So I am opposed to privatization. I think that is the type of special interest politics that we need to get past in Washington. I don't believe that we need to raise the age for Social Security. We're solvent right now till 2037. What we need to do is get this economy moving again, get people back to work, and then we can move forward. So I would be interested in the proposal that you presented about raising the amount, but at this point, what I want to focus on is getting people back to work so that we can all have a strong future, and seniors won't have to worry every single night when they go to bed about their life tomorrow.
Let me take a moment to remind all of you that we are collecting the cards now, so as you're jotting them down, our Steve Griffin is working the room. Just make sure you hold it up. He's collecting them now. I have a quick follow-up on this Social Security question, and Ms. Custer, I'll start with you, just for 30 seconds. Obviously, one of the issues that we've seen from Congresses in past years is raiding Social Security in order to use those funds to pay for various other programs. Given our budget situation right now and how the demand on that pot of money could be even greater, how do we balance out the priorities? Do we, in order to protect Social Security, create the lockbox, as we've heard in past cycles?
We've got to stop raiding Social Security. We've got to honor our seniors and people who have worked hard their entire lives. They deserve those benefits just as the veterans who fought in the wars deserve benefits. Congressman Bass has repeatedly voted against veterans benefits, and he is interested in privatization, which frankly, given the meltdown on Wall Street that we just had, we would literally have people out in the streets.
Mr. Bass?
Well, it's interesting to me that my friend talks about how opposed she is to so-called privatization of Social Security. Every federal employee who's been in the workforce since 1984 is part of a system that is part defined contribution and part defined benefit. All the union retirement plans are in substantial private investments. And even the unique education plan that you proposed and are claiming credit for calls for 87% private investment for children when they're born in order to pay for their education. How important is the education of a child to have it in the private market if it's no good for people who are in the workforce?
I'll give you 30 seconds.
I'd love to
rebut.
respond. The truth is it would cost trillions of dollars on our debt to even change over to privatization, and all it does is line the special interests and the pockets on Wall Street that you've been so intent on protecting all these years in Washington.
And if I may respond,
You may.
if a U.S. Treasury bill is a private interest, I don't know how to define private interest, and I would only point out that we're back to what we were talking about before, which is that Social Security needs to be preserved and protected, and I don't have the ostrich in the head in the sand approach to this issue. I believe that your son and my son deserve to get Social Security, and the way things are going now, it won't occur.
Okay, we'll move on to the next question.